No wonder why my filter wasn't working very well. I don't know. It seems like the resolution's got pixelated. I'm not really sure what happened with the camera right now. It's kind of on data saver or something. It's oh well, you know what? I think it's because I was on Zoom earlier. Because we had class today. So I think because I was on Zoom earlier that it kind of stuck with a lower resolution from that driver, the Zoom driver. Because I think the opposite is if I use this program first, I end up getting a better resolution for Zoom. Well, whatever. Because when I'm pre-recording anyways, a lot of the time I am showing you guys the screen, so you guys can see like the discussion outline that Wu's Church has released. So anyways, let's go back to the subject at hand here. All right, so they have updated. I think it's because especially like with the fact that crews are back. People do have crews on Mondays, so they kind of need to have this out um, so that people can refer to it, if they need to. So I think they are now kind of got back on track to kind of coming out with this on time, as opposed to like, sometimes by the time I need to go live tomorrow, it's still not out yet. So today we're talking about like kind of giving your attention to Jesus. So Manuka spoke this week, and one of the things that she was saying is that how a lot of things can compete for our attention, but also like kind of also mostly about like a lot of things can compete for our time. So she mentioned examples like TikTok, and like that's why they call it TikTok, because like the clock's ticking as you're using it. So a lot of the things like that, and like when it comes to what I said last week's video about like if I go every other week, basically even though it is good discussion to practice for crew itself, I think like I would probably do the videos on the weeks I don't have crew, so that would actually still get me to think about the questions even if I don't have to meet together with people to share my answers. I can still share the answers with myself and I guess with you, the YouTube community. So maybe that's kind of like if I'm gonna be busy and I decide to do it every other week, these videos, because I actually gonna have to. I want to kind of review some of my goaltending and stuff. Because apparently we're starting this week, so I gotta bone up. Um, yeah. So, well, this video, by the time this video is out, I'm actually playing tomorrow night. So maybe if I can find my camera, I'll be able to put something on. But I'm not really sure what with the safety regulations. But I think they'll still let me put my camera out there on the edge of the ice. I don't think it's a big deal, especially with the safety regulations, right? They can understand that we need to stream to get the stream stuff now. We're no longer having live audience, but we're streaming stuff now. So I think they'll understand, but we'll see. So I mean, I definitely know that they're still having some restrictions on spectators as well right now. All right, so talking to Jesus, may I have your attention, please? So different things that kind of wire for our attention away from God. The difference between giving our attention to God or giving our attention to something else is the main theme for this. So Scripture, even now declares the Lord. So this is from Joel. Return to me with all your heart, with fasting, weeping, and mourning. Rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord, for he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love. And he relents from sending calamity. Who knows? He may turn and relent and leave behind a blessing, grain offerings and drink offerings for you, the Lord your God. References: 2 Corinthians 10, 5, Hebrews 12, 1-2, Habakkuk 2, 1-3, Isaiah 26, 3-4, Psalms 104, Joel 2, 25-27. So the Joel 2, 5-27, because she did use it in the message, is the one where like I will pour out my spirit on all people. And they may mention that later on in this outline because I haven't actually read it yet. As I said, I don't really do any preparations for these videos. I just run the recorder and I just I go through it for the first time the same time you are. Well, I mean, it's not live right now, but I mean, normally when it's live, I'll be running through it the same time you guys are running through it. Well, on my phone usually, not on the computer screen, because I can't see the computer screen when I go live. I see myself. In the book of Joel, we find Israel plagued with a locust invasion. These insects have taken over completely, wiping out the land, destroying the present crops and ruining the future seed. Imagine how the Israelites must have felt. Everything they had invested in was gone, and hope for restoration seemed impossible. When nothing about their situation seemed secure, God was reminding them of his provision. If they would turn their attention towards him, he promised to restore all that they had lost. We too face modern day locusts, situations and moments that plague our peace. But we have hope. In God we find refuge in the plague. He promises to restore us as we shift our attention towards him. God is asking us today, may I have your attention, please? Alright, so eliminate distractions. Our time is valuable. We may be living in the most distracted generation ever. We have time and energy, but sometimes it is pointed in the wrong direction. Despite our distractions, God will meet us right where we are when we choose to make him our priority. We can ask God to help us focus our minds. 2 Corinthians 10:5. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion against the knowledge of God, and we take every thought captive to obey Christ. So this is also usually take every thought captive is actually quite common as a memory verse as well for those who have been with Christianity a bit longer. You kind of know what I'm talking about. This verse is maybe familiar to you as well. But I guess maybe they're still using the New King James Version translation, because this is actually again, just like last time I pointed out, this is not the translation that I normally have memorized. More word for word almost, because I've been reading it so many times, the NIV. So this, I'm pretty sure it is not NIV. I'm just not really sure 100% what translation it is, because they didn't make it known, and I didn't look it up ahead of time. As I said, we don't have control over how much time we get, but we do have control over how we spend our time. So that's true. Like, we don't know, how like I think about the scripture where that rich guy is kind of storing up stuff for himself, and then the Bible says that God kind of rebukes him and say, "Oh, you fool! Tonight your life will be taken from you. You sometimes you think that I can save up all this stuff, and I can enjoy it for years to come, but you never know when is your next day. Kind of reminded me about the situation right now. I saw this old guy on the news. Like, he was one of those guys that I think is not really supportive of mandatory vaccination. I don't know if he himself is one of the people who are not vaccinated, and choosing not to get vaccinated as well. But there actually aren't that many people around. However, I kind of think that maybe what he's just kind of supporting is he also supports the. Some people are vaccinated, but they just, they're okay with supporting the fact that vaccination should not be mandatory. But anyway, so the whole point was he was saying is that if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. So so sometimes you don't know when is your time to go. That song, it says you never know when you're gonna go. And it's true. You never know. So you don't have control how much time we get, but we do have control over how we spend our time. In a way, the sentence also sounds a bit like an oxymoron, about how we don't have control over how much time we get, but we do have control over how we spend our time. So I mean, I know it is. So as I said earlier, it is kind of pointing to the fact that you never know when you're gonna go. You don't know when when you're gonna pass away. But at the same time, I kind of see that when you say you don't have control over how much time you get, it's sort of like kind of makes it sound like other things will take control of our time, and we don't have control over it. But like the verse is saying, I mean, here the sentence is actually saying, no, we do have control over, how we spend the time that we have. So, but it's almost kind of saying like, to me, that it kind of sounds suggestive that, you don't know how you won't be able to control how much time you get. Like you don't control when you might, um, you know, um, you might have to like work overtime at your job. So I kind of see like, I kind of see that, like I kind of think that that's sort of kind of saying that, like the other things that take over our time, like they're trying to say that we have control about how we, over that, but sometimes we don't, like I kind of feel like so, but like I kind of feel like this sentence is sort of like, yeah, it's contradicting itself a little bit, because they're kind of saying that, oh, we don't have control how much time we get, but the things that can take over our time, it's like, okay, well, you can quit that job if you find you're working a lot, and some people, like, they have that mentality, right? Like they don't want to work and they just quit. But anyways, so that's kind of what, like, I kind of feel like a bit of it is, obviously I know that they're kind of saying that you never know how long when you're gonna go, but a lot of it I kind of feel like, when we talk about not having control about how much time we get, a lot of it seems more immediate. Like, okay, well, um, like if other things come up in our schedule, you don't have control of it. So that's kind of why I feel like the sentence is kind of like, yeah, like it's kind of like contradictory when you read it, um in a sense, because like those things are like somewhat kind of beyond your control. It's kind of what I'm saying. um you never know when you're gonna go. Okay. Distraction is anything preventing us from giving full attention, and it is the biggest thing holding us back from our communication with God. God's heart is to have our attention long enough so He can speak to us. The reason why we are distracted is because we are looking for things to satisfy us, to satisfy only God can satisfy. Uh, they kind of they kind of didn't put only God. I kind of feel it reads better. Like, only God can satisfy us, because that's what she was trying to say in her message. So, we're trying to find other things to satisfy us, but only like God can satisfy us. Like there are certain things we're looking for, other sources of satisfaction, but in reality, what we're looking for is something that only God can give us. Like only God can satisfy us. What changes do you want to make to be less distracted and spend your time better? I guess like kind of have like a plan. Like, I guess like, because sometimes I don't really have like kind of a weekly schedule anymore. I kind of just like, I just like, okay, uh, I wake up and I should be studying, and I just study or whatever. But I don't actually have a fixed plan. So what I'm saying is, you don't have a fixed plan, sometimes it's not good. In terms of like what they're saying, like, to prevent yourself from being distracted, is because when you don't have a fixed plan, sometimes you just like, okay, well, I that you should be doing things like studying, but then like, you just like, instead of like, because if you don't block it out, right, because you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to study from this time to this time, and therefore you kind of have that allocated, so you're guaranteed to study, because you're supposed to be doing that. But then like, she, like how she was saying about TikTok, right? So like, maybe you have things to do, like, and then you go on TikTok, and then it's like, oh, and then you end up watching one video after another, as she was saying, and then you're just like, okay, well, and then like you realize, oh, your time kind of passed by, and like, oh, like there goes my 3 hours in the afternoon that, originally I should have progressed 3 hours doing this task, whether that be reading, studying, or like, doing laundry, whatever it is, I don't know, cleaning, whatever you were trying to do during those 3 hours, like you end up not doing, because you end up going on TikTok. So what I'm saying is that, if you don't have a plan, you could easily get distracted, because it's like, okay, because if like, okay, if like, okay, like even if you did go on TikTok and you're like, okay, well, now it's almost like 3 o'clock, and I should be like, during this time I should be doing this instead. So, after maybe 5-10 minutes, you get off TikTok instead of staying on for like a few hours. So you're just like, okay, you know what? This is the time that I should be doing this right now. I shouldn't be doing TikTok. So you get off the TikTok, and then you just like, you focus on the other activity that you're supposed to do in that time slot, right? So I guess that's kind of like what I'm saying. Like, that's something I could do better, is that I can maybe kind of plan my activities. Even though sometimes I know, like, in my position right now, because like, well, I mean, like, the good thing is, like, like, hopefully I'll be able to find a decent paying job. I have an interview coming up this week, but like, what I'm saying is that, with like a regular job, I kind of know what my hours are. But like, when I'm doing the goalie thing, it's like, okay, well, I get a goalie request, especially like, when you get the ones that are nearby, and you don't want to, the nearby ones like give you maximum profit, and also they save you time in traveling, right? So it's like, you want to be available to do them, but obviously, like, I might have something scheduled for that time, and be like, oh, well, I should be like, doing this right now, instead of going to play hockey. But at the same time, like, what I'm saying is that will make me miss out on that opportunity. But and like, and then the time that I don't have something scheduled, maybe like the game is like all the way like somewhere else, and it's like pretty far, and I don't want to go. So it's like, so that's the problem. No. But other than that, it's not that's not really the main thing is, like, yeah, I think having a schedule, even though things may come up from time to time. So it's, like I said, it's understandable if you're kind of more on call, that sometimes you don't know what you can't control how much time you're gonna have, like the other side is saying. That's how I kind of feel. But you really can't control it. But so I think if you're kind of more on call, you don't really have a fixed schedule. But I think, to some degree, I think I can still implement this, because what I'm saying is that, okay, if I know that, during certain times it's very unlikely that, there will be something that I want to go, like, a game that I want to go to that's close by, then, then I can just be like, you know what, this is be a time for, doing this chapter or whatever it is that I gotta do for school, or whatever else task that I gotta do. So I could just allocate that time to, like, 'cause I know, like, so and then it's kind of like, it'll still help, because, like, then they'll be like, okay, they got this, like, kind of like a middle ground, so it's not in like somewhere far, but it's also not really close. But like, if I know, like, during those time slots, I tend to get more of those where it's like, kind of like, like, normally I might go, depends, whatever. Especially like sometimes they, if they got nobody else to go, they offer more money, and I'll be like, but I don't know. That hasn't happened yet, because right now we still have a lot of, or lack of demand, because of the, things are not fully, like, people are not fully going back on the ice yet, and we have more staff now than before, I guess, as well. So, what I'm saying, that hasn't happened recently, but eventually when things start to pick up, and you get like, more than 10 requests a day. Some of the people, they're not really up to doing, like, they already got one that day and they don't want to do another one, so they will start offering more money, even though it's like, so like sometimes, when they offer more money and it's like not super far but also not super close, then I kind of like, for the extra, for getting extra gas money, I would be willing to go, but at the same time, like, if I do this plan, I schedule, like, what, at this time I should be doing this, then it kind of helps me. But I'll be like, what, I committed, I should be committed to doing that right now. So I maybe won't do that today, and then during the other times, hopefully something close by will still pop up. And even though I could still study during those other times, but what I'm saying is that it's also kind of like a little bit flexible. Like, during those times, if you want to go, take a gig, get some pocket change, it's still a goal, kind of thing. So, all right, daily discipline, making time with God a priority usually sounds easy enough, but always requires selflessness. The author of Hebrew emphasizes that walking in the fullness of Jesus Christ requires discipline and preparation. Like anything else in life, we prepare ourselves to perform for big exams, marathons, or even job interviews. Why should our spiritual walk be any different? We should focus on creating daily disciplines, but also remember that more important than the habit is the heart behind the habit. Joel 2:12-13. Now therefore, says the Lord, turn to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and with mourning. So rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and he relents from doing harm. It takes discipline to keep our spiritual lives healthy. If we want to go the distance, we must prepare daily. God is not random with you. Be specific with him. Schedule a specific time in prayer and for prayer and worship in your daily routine. If you give God your heart, he will help your habits. What spiritual discipline do you feel helps you the most in coming closer to God, and why? Well, I think like I'm the kind of person that I like to be busy. So I think like she's one thing that she did is she says she used to go on walks and pray. So, but what I'm saying is like that kind of works better for me too, because when I'm walking, I'm doing something, right? Like I'm not just like, okay, I'm idle, like some people say, oh, trying to pray before they go to bed and I'm falling asleep and not praying, that kind of situation. So for me, like something like walking is more helpful, not because like you can't really sleepwalk, but because I'm also doing something other than just like other than just, but okay, I'm gonna like just sit here and listen, and wait for God to speak, and it feels like I'm not being productive, and my time is just kind of like spent away. Another thing that for me personally is singing. Also, like it could be good because like I'm singing a song, like singing praise music or whatever. I'm singing, so I'm doing something like like my mind is focused on the song. There's like a focal point, right? Like kind of like with the walking too, right? There's like I'm not just like idly like waiting for something to happen. I can be praying, but at the same time I also like my mind is kind of focused on the walking. So there's a focal point for me to focus on something, doing something besides just whatever. So sometimes I try to do that, like even like in hockey when I don't have to talk to anybody, I can like I can talk to God. But obviously like and then like at the same time my mind needs to focus on the game. So like so like I may not be talking to anybody, but I'm still talking to God. But my mind is still focused on something. Like I'm not just sitting there, just staring into the abyss, and my mind tends to wander. Like I think like when I have something to focus on, it kind of like, okay, when your mind is kind of like wandering, you focus on whatever activity you're doing, the walking, the hockey, the singing, So I think that for me to have something to focus on, it kind of helps me. So like it helps me like be able to I can try to find a way to connect to God that way. Summary: if we're being honest, it can be difficult to develop a daily prayer habit. Sometimes the distractions of life seem too loud, or the time lost seems too great. But the truth is, we serve a God who promises to redeem time. Take one step closer to God, and He'll meet you where you are. You don't have to feel like you lost time or fallen short, because God will renew you and restore you when you pray with all your heart. Pray to Him daily and in all circumstances, like it says in I think Philippians and other shorter epistles. God is ready to pour out on those who fix their attention on Him. So yeah, it's kind of like I was saying, and the Joel 25-27 is kind of like God will pour out His Spirit on all people. Is that verse that she did talk about? Also closer to the end of her message. So I'm throwing it out again now. So alright, call to action. Take out your phone and share your screen time report. Determine what distraction consumes most of your time. Okay, I don't really know how to do that on Apple. I think there is like they just tell you like battery usage, not really screen time, but I don't know. I'll see if there's a screen time report. We'll see. Determine which distraction consume most of your time. Create a daily habit to create more time for God. So there is like meditation apps as well. Some people say that that works for them. So like I said, it's something to focus on, could work for people. But I don't have the subscription to that meditation app anymore. I had one last year by accident because I had a free trial, but I didn't cancel before the free trial, and they just gave me a 1 year subscription. So I was using that for some time, but in the last few months of the subscription, I wasn't really using it much. But I tried to. Okay, it's about to expire. I pay for it, might as well use it, kind of thing. So sometimes having something like that kind of helps you. But so create a daily habit to create more time for God. So for some people, like the app could be helpful for some people. I was using the Abide app at the time. Write down your plan and share it with a friend. Be ready to share your experience at Crew. And then yeah, you can read the announcements. They talk about like crew is here. Back this week is the second week of the crew for the season. The second time we're meeting for crew of the season, and there's other things you can read up on. But I'm just gonna leave that to you. Yeah, so I guess that's it for today. Like things are going back to full swing. So there's not really much in terms of announcements. I'm back in school. I'm doing like Baptist history course and some other stuff. Possibly the MRS again. And like I'm not I think like that's not much to say about that. I'm gonna have to go to school at some point to get some books and bring back the books from the library, because I think the library is no longer like auto renewing our stuff because of COVID. So we have to, stuff is gonna be due, and I gotta bring it back into the library at some point as well. So I'm gonna do that. So things are starting to slowly we're trying to progress to life that we still have in-person classes now, and we have an in-person retreat as well that's happening on Friday. I might try to join remotely, so that'll kind of be a little bit of adjustment to going back to waking up earlier. But that's something hopefully I can I can give it a go. Yeah. So like definitely I definitely need to work on trying to sleep a bit earlier, not sleep so super late. Like I mean I will, like some days, especially like when I got a late game, I might still sleep somewhat late, but like it won't be like like super late as I have been, like before the summer. I was doing my assignments and I started sleeping really late and waking up really late, but but that's okay, like because I think like the important thing is I still had a routine, like during certain hours I would be pretty heavily spending a lot of concentration on my assignments, even if it's late at the time of the day. But if I'm spending the time wisely, it wasn't detrimental to being able to accomplish what I need to accomplish as well. So kind of put it that way. All right, so that's pretty much enough for a video for today. It's 27 minutes. I think I talked a lot longer than I expected on the outline stuff, but I think it was I think the questions were they're well phrased this week. That it kind of prompts people. It's very practical and very direct. I find these questions this week, so it's kind of why like the answers kind of came like the way they came. All right, so I think hopefully it'll be easy for you to think about those things as well, and that listening to what I say kind of maybe spark something to kind of that you relate to as well, that maybe you find helpful. Because I know like these videos are somewhat of a time commitment. Time commitment. You can control whether or not you want to watch this video. So well, thank you for making the choice to watch. If you have reached it to the end where I say thank you right now. All right, see you next time, guys.